So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts 107. I am here with Vishanti and Kip Davis's empty chair because Kip Davis was like, I have to go get my coffee, and then he kept talking for like 2 or 3 minutes after it was time for him to go get his coffee, which was a choice that he made. But now Kip Davis is once again in his formerly empty chair. Hello Kip, hello Vishanti. How are you?
Is time?
I
don't know.
It's this weird combination of things like cause and effect, one event following another in an order, like entropy increasing. It's the direction in which entropy increases is forward in time or the future. A lot of things.
I don't believe you, Dapper Dinosaur, because, I mean, come on. You're a dinosaur, dude.
Okay, but that just means I've had more experience with time than you have. Like orders of magnitude.
Listen, that's fair. Listen, I'm having a great day.
Oh, good.
Today, I got up early, unexpectedly. I took a shower, made my coffee. I Christed in the burning purple.
Wow.
This morning. And if you saw a certain 5-hour live stream from yesterday, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Did see that 5-hour live stream, although I did not see it live because I don't have
Oh no,
time
it wasn't
for that.
live. Sorry, it wasn't a live stream. It was a video, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. I don't remember actually.
So, yeah.
So yeah, in case anyone's wondering, the MythVision channel had a 5-hour video about one David Hillman. And it turns out, because look, here's my experience with David Hillman. One day, my brother sent me that weird podcast he was on, and said, "Hey, Dapper." I mean, okay, he calls me Tim. Yeah. Okay. Hey Tim, is there anything to this? And so I start watching, and the first thing I see is like Amin Hillman saying things like, "Oh well, you know, the Septuagint is actually the original, and the Masoretic text is actually a translation from the Septuagint." Now, I am not going to say that the Masoretic text is quote unquote the original, because there are obvious textual changes that have happened from anything we could reasonably call an original that are very clearly in the Masoretic text. But it's also not a translation of the Septuagint, very obviously. And to be fair, yeah, the Septuagint isn't a translation of the Masoretic text per se, but both the MT and the Septuagint go back to earlier, very obviously Hebrew manuscript traditions. And I was like initially just like, no. And then I got further in, and it was like all this stuff about like, you know, actually what Christ means is like various drugs and getting stung by gadflies and all this stuff. And I was just like, no, there's nothing to any of this. It's all just nonsense. And then I just kind of dropped it because it wasn't in my like field of view. I don't go after like crazy weird like New Testament pseudo scholarship from people who pretend to know Greek.
Wackadoo peddlers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then later it turns out MythVision did like a whole expose, because to be fair, a lot of people who maybe should have known better, including Kip and
Right.
Dan McClellan, were like, well, you know, his Greek is pretty good, but it's just he's not studying the same group of texts. He's studying much older texts from a much different context, which is true that he was doing that. It also turns out his Greek actually sucks and might actually only be marginally better than mine, which is saying something. Yeah,
you guys.
It's real bad.
Like, it's really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like, hilariously bad.
When I say his Greek might be only marginally better than mine, I need you to understand, like, I can't just sit down and read a Greek text unless it's extremely basic. Like, I might be able to get through the ancient Greek version of, like, see spot run, but that's about it.
Yeah, Hillman might similarly struggle. Y'all, it's a thing. By the way,
really
just for to leave people, to bring people into the light here. You guys, you know what it means to Christ in the burning purple, don't you?
Well, I both know what Ammon Hillman
But
says
what
it
it
means.
actually means.
And well, first, Christ isn't a verb, so it means literally nothing in real English.
Nothing.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We're not going to say what Ammon Hillman repeatedly says it means because I don't want a
No.
community guideline strike.
It's true.
Yeah, it is the kind of thing that if you said it out loud, you might get a visit from a federal agency investigating why this is a topic of discussion that you're having.
But we can talk about what it really means. Because it's pretty benign. Turns out it just means brushing your teeth.
Polishing
it
your
means.
mouth scales,
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yep.
which
What it
doesn't
is.
sound cursed at all.
No.
Here's a fun thing. There is a halal way to brush your teeth.
Really?
Yeah. The Sharia has rules
is
about
fun.
brushing your teeth, which is just a fun little thing. Because it's got a lot of rules about all sorts of weird things, including like how to wipe your butt after you take a dump. Like there's
I mean,
there's the
some of these
Islamic
rules
way.
are
halakha
important.
halakha has rules about like how to put your shoes on and in which order to tie them. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Some of these are rules that I feel like my children would have benefited from.
Well, okay,
But
Yeah.
the Sharia compliant way to wipe your butt is just use an odd number of stones. Would that really have helped your children? Yeah. See, as many stones as you need, as long as it ends with an odd number. So if you feel like you're done on an even number, one more time, just in
Another
case, just for Allah. We got a few super chats here. Ben Thick Tunicate for £5 says, "Here's a gift to our favorite sultry saurian, you titillating tetrapod, you curvaceous ceratosaurus." Well, thank you very much. I don't know that those really describe me very well, but you know what? If you find me sultry or titillating or curvaceous, you are welcome to do that.
Your
Roshana,
Ceratosaurus avatars that we see, they have thick thighs.
they do. It turns out you need thick thighs in order to push such a large mass around.
Mm-hmm.
The whole terrestrial locomotion thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Roshana, Japonic means Germanic Keller for $4.99 says, let's see. I am not sure which song this should be sung to. Do you know, Vishanti?
Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix.
I don't think I know it well enough. Could you sing it?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, then we'll say that they should go to that
Because
tune.
I respect Jimi Hendrix too much to try to sing in the state that I'm in.
All right. Fair enough. So here it comes, the sound of drums. Here come the drums. Here come the drums. Baby, 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 you are my voodoo child, my voodoo child. Sorry about that,
Voodoo
Roshana.
Child.
And then, child. Sorry.
Yeah.
Roshana did put the D there, so that's what she said.
I know.
Roshana, Japonic means Germanic Keller for $1.99, also says Kent is a bag of AIGs, and you know what? We will accept that for the purposes of the drink counter, and I am actually having a martini.
So this week, since Kip gave his introductory patter, I had a anniversary celebration for my solar revolution and uterus expulsion. So
Yay!
I heard through the grapevine that chat contributed to buy me a birthday gift, and I anticipate its arrival. So I will let you know when it arrives. I'm very thankful for that, and I appreciate all of the well wishes. It made me feel very good. My happiness units were increased, and I started off my birthday week on Monday by driving up to Burbank to pay respects at the Bob's Big Boy Diner at the kind of ad hoc David Lynch Memorial that has sprung up because he ate there like every day for 7, 8, 9 years. And it was nice, like, just hanging out with people who were there also to pay their respects, maybe do some transcendental meditation. I had a slice of delicious, damn fine cherry pie and a cup of hot black coffee. So
Nice.
that was a very worthwhile trip, and I've been up very early also, but not for good reasons. I've been struggling with a migraine, which has decreased somewhat, and I hope that it will decrease even more over the course of the stream. I'm pretty sure I know why it's happening because we're gonna get rain all weekend in the LA basin. So, Baruch Hashem, we need it.
That is
All right.
awesome.
By the way, I
Mhm.
am looking at the tracking information for the order that is being shipped to you, Vishanti, and it says that it should be
Okay.
arriving on Wednesday.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
Yep. So, speaking of things like that, I do want to say thank you to Roshana, who sent me a 24 pack of milk infused black tea from
Ooh.
it's a style of tea that's often consumed in Japan, although this one was actually bottled in
Milk.
California.
Infused black tea.
It's basically canned black tea with milk and a certain percent amounts of like sugar and whatnot. It's a fairly common drink in Japan, and it's the note said consume with rice from Roshana. And so, thank you very much. I have had a couple cans so far. I gave one to Bent because he was curious, and I'm not going to
I
say no,
made
Bent. You
something
can't have
really
any of my tea.
delicious this week. On Tuesday, which was my actual birthday, I was up late and I was talking to one of my roommates, and we were just gabbing and went downstairs, and we both decided like, hey, we'd kind of like some hot chocolate, so took out some non-dairy soy milk and some abuelita Mexican chocolate discs, and I made some delicious hot chocolate,
Nice.
which I'm very pleased.
That sounds
about.
amazing.
Oh, we got a couple more
Hot
things,
Chucky.
and then I think we're going to go right into the land bridges section because
All right. Alex Markel says that he watched Inland
from
Empire
Mothra.
with his girlfriend, and he's like, "That's a fever dream." Like, yeah, it's David Lynch, of course it is. So, if y'all want to spend 17 minutes of your life just getting pure distilled David Lynch surrealism, go watch What Did Jack Do?
Yeah, that's a pretty wild thing. Okay, so Prostetnik Vogon Jeltz has joined the channel at the tetrapod level. Thank you very much, Prostetnik Vogon Jeltz. I hope I continue to pronounce your name roughly in an acceptable manner. Then Ben Thick Tunicate gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, and I will take 5 drinks for that. And also, Jasper Pegleg Tunicates the Mighty has joined the channel at the tetrapod level. So thank you very much, Jasper Pegleg Tunicates the Mighty. 1.
Oh, Jillian Wren says that she restarted Twin Peaks was his show of enormous joy, and I would love to let you know, Jillian, that I basically pressed Dapper into watching the entire first season of Twin Peaks in like 2 days.
You say
And
that like
we're
it was
getting
some
ready
kind
to-
of challenge. You said, hey,
well,
Dapper,
it's
when
just
are...
one of those things.
This
Sometimes
is-
I just love rewatching Twin Peaks, and you'd never seen it all the way through. So I was like, "Hey, let's do this. Let's watch Twin Peaks. Let's watch Twin Peaks."
Okay,
So-
I want to be more specific about how this
Wish you-
conversation went. Vishanti said, hey, when are we going to watch Twin Peaks? And I said, literally all you have to do is say, let's watch Twin Peaks. That's it. That was the pressing, was literally
Wish
just
I was.
whenever you say, so...
I wish I
Here's
was
my
one
fifth
of the
drink.
cool kids because I've never watched Twin Peaks,
Oh man,
and I
Well,
might have.
I volunteer to watch the first season at least with you whenever
It's not
you
very
like.
Alright.
long.
All right.
It's
Yeah,
only
it's only 8
Uh,
episodes.
Yeah, although the
Before,
first one is like a triple length episode, so it's closer to feeling like 10.
yeah,
More like 2, but yeah.
nice. Do you guys do you want to say anything? Should we say anything about the picture that I sent?
Oh,
or you good?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you know what? We'll just go quickly because I have another super chat and I do want to get to the actual text that we're here to talk about.
All right.
So, you guys might know about Inspiring Philosophy. I actually have unironically recommended his video about the history of young Earth creationism because, as I've said multiple times, when he actually wants to and when the actual research confirms something that he likes, he actually can do good research. It's just that most of the time that's not what's going on with his channel. But also, he's just been allowing some fairly blatant transphobia in his chat, including people questioning Kip's gender, which Kip, you seem to be pretty masculine and presenting to me.
Oh,
Maybe it's the
thank
deep
you.
voice and the beard that helps that. I don't know.
I think I know where this comes from. I think it's because of the '90s Kimmy ponytail.
Could be, I suppose.
from my last stream.
I mean,
however,
overall, you do have
I
fabulous
mean,
hair.
Thank you. Got a cut.
I also got a haircut
Vish-
this week.
Vishanti also got a.
I'm rocking
we look.
some
We
curtain
look.
bangs and
We look
choppy layers.
fucking amazing today.
We're gonna need a refill of Kip's F-bomb fund.
Well, it's a good day, guys. But I think, and listen, I mean, to their credit, our community is amazing. You guys are amazing.
We've
So
already got trans pride
thank
flags
you
in the chat.
for not being raging transphobes in the chat.
Or,
I know it's
or even on the
lowest
DL smoldering
of
transphobes.
bars.
You're not even doing that,
right?
so
Not even that. I'd like to also point out that that when my hair was a topic of conversation on other channels, Paula Gia did the right thing and noticed that I was doing my best to audition for the sequel of Shogun, which is the right response.
Yes, yes. Good.
Questioning my gender because I like to do dumb things with my hair. It's not great.
It's not great. And also,
it's
one
not
of the
great.
things that always confuses me when people, well, specifically Christians, try to use a man's long hair to question their gender is like, I've seen a lot of pictures of Jesus, and he didn't exactly have a buzz cut in any of them. So what is the point that you're trying to make that doesn't also apply to Jesus in your mind? Do you think Jesus was trans? Was he too girly? Was he not masculine enough? I don't know.
I mean, Jesus went from being essentially a spirit or a concept and didn't have a father, and apparently didn't have a biological father, so there's only half the chromosomes. So what really was Jesus' gender? Let's be real.
Yeah. Like, what was it at conception? There's the real question. Okay, we gotta... We're not going to get too far into that.
There is no gender at conception because there's no gametes, but okay.
We're not even going to get into that. That's too far into the weeds. We got a couple super chats. Ben Thick Tunica for £5 says, Dapper is the only witness to the KT extinction. Dapper also hates pelagic tunicates. Coincidence? Well, it is a coincidence in that it is two things that are true.
That's a spicy implication.
But yeah, it might be more than a coincidence. And Joshua Geese for $20 says, here's for the S couple of... Oh, okay. Here's for a couple of F-bombs. It is a typo. S for the A, because they're next to each other. Thank you very much, Joshua Geese.
Joshua gets it.
Yep.
Thank you, Joshua.
So now you have one free one there, Kip, that you have in your pocket. You can just...
God, they're expensive,
they are.
Eh?
Yeah, that's because this is a...
And
this is supposed to be a family-friendly show.
Those are 10 American dollars.
Not 10-year funny money over there where like 10 beaver bucks equals like
really cool plastic rainbow money.
I could get an oil change for that. I'm pretty sure.
All right, you know what? There's only one thing that I can say that I positively like about the US like paper bills, and it's that I like that they're the same size because then a stack of them doesn't feel weird in my hands.
Yeah.
I do not like differently sized denominations.
The same size.
Good. Because a lot of countries don't do that, and I hate it.
No.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Because it always looks messy to me whenever there's a stack of bills of different denominations. I can't stand
I hate it. I'm like, I was the kid who always would keep a pocket full of coins, and I would arrange them by size, and that drove me insane because the sizes don't correlate to their monetary value.
Yeah,
the dime is smaller than a nickel. How? Why? 10 is not smaller than 5.
Because nickel is way cheaper than, silver. Even though now the dime is mostly nickel anyway.
I know. It just makes me...
Alright, so, who wants to start us out talking about how Bodhi thinks that land bridges work post-flood to get people dispersed from Babel according to their languages? Okay, I will go for it because no one wants to go. All right. Here we go. Land bridges. Most creationists believe that there was an ice age that followed the flood. Creationists and evolutionists agree for once. Do you, Bodhi? Because, like, it's kind of like saying, like,
the flood.
Dapper.
Right?
Dapper.
Yes,
Dapper.
yes.
Dutch Tunicate says you missed their super chat.
Ooh.
Which one?
I don't know. I'm just relating what the chat said.
Let's see. Oh, the one about the favorite marine reptile. Yeah, I did forget that one.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that is a good question. I don't actually know off the top of my head what my favorite marine reptile is. You said yours is the little blue penguin. I'm kind of partial to Tylosaurus, but then again, I really like sea turtles. Let's see. In terms of which sea reptiles I've seen the most, personally, I think it's sea snakes. Specifically, I believe it was a crate species. Seen a lot of crates in my time. In the Navy mostly.
oh.
It was pretty much the only
Russian
marine.
Keller's saying you missed 2 super chats.
Which other one did I miss?
Oh, yikes.
Oh yeah, that's that one. Roasted Japonic mass. Wait, when did this even come in? I think YouTube might be being a little wonky. Roasted Japonic means Germanic Keller for $4.99 says last week was a food stream. Can we make this a drink stream? I mean, I'm drinking a
We
martini.
can always make it a drink stream.
Yeah. We can talk about drinks.
Have coffee.
Yeah. And then Goofball Gorgon Utskea, who's been a member for 16 months, is at the Tetrapod level, says, Bodhi babbling again? Neat. Yes. Oh, and look,
Also,
then my YouTube page just crashed. So, yeah, I think YouTube was
Oh,
being
no.
weird and dumb. So,
yeah, and as a couple people in the chat are noting that the different size coins and bills are accessible for blind people, which I fully acknowledge.
yeah.
Being sighted, I have, different needs. It's, I think, related to some of my other neurological wirings.
See,
that-
I think
It's not OCD, but it's definitely just like,
I think the embedded plastic strip is a way that we could make bills of the same size more easily accessible for people with visual problems. Because you could have smooth strips that you can feel and count, similar to how like Braille works with a raised bump. And I think
Mhm.
that would be a solution that would allow accessibility to people with visual impairments while also not making the stacks weird and gross and untidy.
Anonymous Pie writes that Australian notes also have indents and or dots on the bills for blind folks. So
Yeah, that's another good
you
one.
could just emboss the paper a little.
I'm also okay
That's
with
also an
with a
option.
perforation as long as you support it with a bit of like sturdier material. You can have perforations in a bill. That's fine.
We might have something like that too, but I don't handle a lot of money.
Well, that's the other thing. I
Often.
can't remember the last
Carry
time
a
I
lot of
used a
cash.
stack of
So-
cash.
Yeah.
Essery for $4.99 says, at my job, we put sausages into little bags so they can be easily portioned as needed. I want to label the bags AIG, but my GM didn't let me. Oh, no. I'll take a drink. Thank you very much. So, speaking of drinks...
Start a bespoke butchery that labels all of their sausages
Yeah.
AIG.
So, last week, I had a Mai Tai, which was just... It was very simple. It was a little twist on the Trader Vic's version, which is the original version. And it was just
And delicious.
one shot of golden rum, a shot of light rum, then think about 2 ounces of blue curacao because I was going to use triple sec, but I had blue curacao anyway, so I just figured it's the same flavor. It just looks blue. There's no difference. Then about I think an ounce or so of orgeat, and then into that I also added about 3 ounces of pineapple juice, and it was very strong and very delicious. The pineapple juice is not in the original recipe, but I have a fairly large stockpile of pineapple juice, so
Nice.
I just went with it. And I drank that out of my Commander Worf. No, wait. Yeah, it was the Commander Worf tiki mug that I have, because I have 3 Star Trek tiki mugs. I have a Mugato, a Worf, and then a generic Clint. So, yeah.
I remember the first Mai Tai that I had at Vic's, and to that point, I was like, yeah, there's no way this tastes any different than Mai Tais anywhere else.
Yes, it does.
I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It is the superior Mai Tai.
Mm-hmm.
No one even comes close. Shout out
Yeah.
Trader Vic's.
Well, he invented it, basically. So
Mhm.
it was slightly based on an earlier drink that was made at a bar that he used to work at. But, like, basically the only inspiration is that, like, it's an orgeat-based, or an orgeat-sweetened, like,
Yeah.
tropical style drink, and that's basically it. I had finished journey for
Yeah,
$6.66.
I always have it. Almost always have it when I go to Dragon Con because there's Trader Vic's in the Hilton.
says, "Hail Nero, hail Daps, hail Dr. Kill and Vish, and hail consistent currency." Then another 6 biblical accurate tunicate for £2 says, "Happy belated birthday, Vishanti." All right.
Oh, thank
Well, now we have
Want some next
officially made this a drink stream, and I'm going to continue. We agree that the ocean sea level would have dropped about 350 to 400 feet as a result of all this frozen water now sitting aloft on the land. Oh yeah, we did talk about
Right.
that. Yeah,
You did.
yeah, because Bodhi doesn't know that aloft doesn't just mean on top of. It means like
specifically means
over.
floating.
Right. Like
Yeah.
That's why the architectural structure of a loft is not just an upper floor. It's a part that actually hangs over the lower floor, and like you can, okay. The secular viewpoint, there were many ice ages extending back thousands of years. Whereas the creationist reckoning, there was a major ice age that followed the flood and was triggered by the flood. Okay, so here's why there is the quote-unquote secular view, which is just to say the evidence-based view, because whenever Bodhi says secular, what he really means is evidence-based. And the reason for that is because we have multiple records of glaciation in the geology of the Earth, right? Like we have a glacial till and furrows and whatnot in one place, then more sediment on top of that from after that glaciation, followed by more glacial formations. We also have ice core dates, which we can go back and look at annual dates of ice cores in places like, deep in the middle of Greenland or in Antarctica. And we can check what the climate was hundreds of thousands of years ago. We can trace the cooling and the warming of the climate by extracting air bubbles that are actually directly captured samples of the atmosphere from all that time ago. Because how the ice bubbles got there was the snow fell, then it compacted into solid ice, squeezing the air between the ice crystals that initially fell as snow into little pockets. So, like, there really isn't an option for there only having been one glaciation event and it only having happened like 4,400 years ago. That's just not one of the things we have open to us. We know for a fact it was multiple times, and we know for a fact it lasted for many thousands of years each time, and that it went back hundreds of thousands, if not a few million years.
Jillian Wren writes, "Gosh, someone might get a screen name from that," and they've changed it to Jillian Iceberg Cloud Wren. Because last week we were talking about Interstellar. Because if you're going to have, ice aloft, then it's just the iceberg clouds from Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
Was there iceberg clouds in Interstellar? How come I don't remember that?
It was on Matt Damon's planet.
Yeah. It was the part of the movie that probably makes the least sense.
Oh, yeah.
The planet orbiting close enough that each year is like 10 years or something, or each minute is like a year or something. It only barely made sense in that you can find that stable orbit, but the chances of a planet forming in that stable orbit is mostly impossible.
Accretion disks are a hell of a thing, man. Like,
if I can just, if I can just really quickly, I'd like to apologize to the chat for my E key, which is acting up today. So sometimes it may look like gibberish, but believe me, it's not. It really isn't.
You can use the 3 key instead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as good as the E key, but like
no, yeah.
It's going to at least be like legible.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Well, among people who are like, millennials who are familiar with the leet speak, it'll be legible.
Yeah. Okay. Jasper Peg-legged Tunicates, the Mighty, writes, "Always losing and finding Matt Damon. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen an adult with like toddler superpowers. Because every time that guy goes somewhere, he gets lost and people have to go find him. He's been lost in space twice. He got lost and caused an entire military unit to go looking for him. Like, keep this guy in the house or give him a tracking bracelet or something. Good
Put him on a leash. There you go.
Right.
He did get into Harvard though.
That is also true, and I don't think he got lost that time.
No, there's nothing
Although
Nothing like that.
the
Yeah.
actual math problem he solves at the beginning of that makes everyone go, "Oh wow." It's actually not a very complicated math problem, and it's fairly trivial, and it's been solved for like a
It's-
century.
Yeah.
All right.
Film directors are good at a few things, right? But my guess is math may
Probably
not
not,
be
yeah.
one of them.
A goofball Gorgon Utskea says for $4.99, why do young Earth creationists insist on babbling about languages so much when they can't even agree on a flood boundary? I can tell you exactly why. It's because the people who give them money want answers about that question. That is the entirety of it. And to be fair, it's not like that isn't something that applies to like real science, right? Like, why do scientists study the things that they study? Well, in part, it's because those are the things they're paid to study. If you can't get the grant money to study a thing, you can't really study the thing. You do tend to focus on studying things for which there's grant money available. So I'm not going to give them too much crap for focusing on that, but I will say that I'll give them crap for the fact that their answers don't make a lick of sense at all on any level. Carrie Bronson joined the channel at the level of Amneon, so welcome to Carrie Bronson. I guess it's rejoining. Mine finished sock for $2 says, don't be a bad Iki, like and share instead with a winky tongue sticking out emoji. Thank you very much. And then Carrie Bronson, who's at the Amnio level, having just rejoined and has been a member for 44 months, says, this was from updating my credit card info. I did not intend to let my membership lapse. Well, hey, look, you are absolutely
I'm so
allowed to
the
let
best
your
of us.
membership lapse and re-up. That's fine. I get it. I'm even not one
Thank
who's
you for
going
reminding
be...
me to cancel my Netflix subscription because their prices just went up and I'm not about that life. Thank you.
Yeah.
It
And
feels like
Netflix
it
has
happens
become...
a lot.
The thing is, the whole point of streaming, like the whole business model is, we're slightly more convenient than pirating. But that's becoming increasingly not the case.
It really
Mhm.
is.
And it's like, the reason I got Netflix is I was like, this is way easier than trying to find torrents for all the movies and shows that I
Yeah.
want.
Right.
Yep.
Good
But
Same
that's
here.
no longer the
I also-
case.
I also felt guilt. But it's becoming increasingly easier as well to work through that.
Yeah. An Ice Age is a rare event. I mean, I guess in Bodhi's mind it only happened once, so I guess it's more of a unique event according to him, but like whatever, who cares? If we just cool the globe, we would not get a cool globe. What? How do you
Okay.
how can you cool the globe without getting a cooler globe, Bodhi? Explain this to me. I mean,
Okay.
Other factors, Dapper.
okay, other factors need to be involved to cause the tremendous amounts of snow and ice and subsequently have cooler summers, so that new ice and snow will not melt off entirely. This is what causes successive growth of compacted ice and snow and hence glaciation. But Bodhi,
So
what?
he's talking about a couple of different things here in the space of a single sentence.
Okay, but that first part, if we just cool the globe, we would not get a cool globe. I don't understand how that's supposed to work. What does that mean? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, right, there's a certain amount of thermal energy that at any one point is on the Earth. And if you take some of it and you just disappear it, there's less thermal energy, which means the temperature of the whole planet, on average, is going to go down. Now, it's true that it might not go down in every single location, right? Like, if Kilauea is erupting, my guess is those lava pools are going to stay at basically the same temperature, regardless of what you do with the total energy of the Earth, until you get to very high numbers of, heat eliminated. But, like, for the most part, yeah, you're going to get a cool globe. How could you not? There's only so much thermal energy. It's a finite amount. I don't even know. Jillian Iceberg Cloud Ranford, who's been a member for 22 months, says, sure, I'll contribute toward delaying the actual reading of the book as much as possible with a Mothra and a Vishanti. Thank you very much. That is the thing. If you don't want us to read this book, I mean, just keep sending super chats and buying memberships and all that stuff. Metageeky Platypus Warlock for $2 says, cool globe pixelated sunglasses descent.
Dang,
need a
I've been a Netflix subscriber since March 2010. End of an era.
Oh,
Right?
there
Yeah.
you go.
Wow.
Stop
Anonymous
raising your
Pi
prices.
Anonymous Pi has just started watching Severance with with an illegal URL. I mean, I'm still doing my best to overcome the guilt, and as a result, I'm waiting. I'm actually waiting until I'm able to purchase my new Apple Mini M4, which is soon. It's coming soon. In order to get my free 3 months before I start watching Severance. So no spoilers. Have you guys noticed this? There are some people in our community who have been dropping Severance spoilers in group chats. That's or
It's rude.
stream chats. That is just not cool, guys.
No spoilers, everybody.
That's shit.
Roshan of Japonic Means Germanic Color for $1.99 says, Bodhi fails at tautologies. Yeah, that's true. That could have just been a tautology, and then somehow he failed at it, and I just don't... yeah.
Wow.
Goodness. The flood solves this problem that I just made up and that doesn't make any sense. Increased heat of the oceans due to continental movements, possible rapid decay of some radioactive materials, volcanism, and so on means that there would have been more evaporation and hence more condensation of snow and ice in winter months. Okay, so the problem that Bodhi is having here, right, is that he understands that when the climate is colder, it also generally has less precipitation, which means that you get less snowfall. Which means that if the only factor you're tracking in terms of glaciation is snowfall, yes, you will get less glaciation based on snowfall. But what Bodhi isn't getting is that that is actually evidence that the glacial period couldn't have just lasted 100 years like he thinks. Because in order to get the stuff to fall as snow in the first place, you have to have the planet be colder, which is going to lower precipitation rates, which is going to slow down how fast those glaciers can form, but allow them to keep forming because it's colder, and so they don't melt. The entire quote-unquote problem he has here that he thinks the flood solves is actually just the reason that we know that the flood doesn't work for this at all. Prixie Purple, who's been a member for 11 months, says, I thought we played to hear the book. Sorry, we paid to hear the book with Mothra. Yeah, sorry. I mean, look, it goes back and forth, right? I suppose
people?
I suppose if we got a big enough super chat and it said, like, hey, do nothing but read and comment on book for the next 20 minutes, I'd probably do that, yeah. Yep. So, yeah, basically, Bodhi is just showing us why his single short ice age doesn't work on the basis of just thermodynamics, which, this is a fun thing, right? For some reason, multiple kinds of cranks have latched on to thermodynamics because I think they realize that it is one of the core concepts in a lot of science, right? I don't remember exactly who said it or what the exact phrase was, but basically it was like, hey, if your ideas conflict with, say, Einstein, good luck to you. You probably don't have much of a chance. But if your ideas conflict with the laws of thermodynamics, then may God have mercy on your soul because you have nothing. Right? And I think that they've realized that that's the degree to which thermodynamics is really a big core part of a lot of science. But the problem is that both of these groups, which are young Earth creationists and flat earthers, fundamentally don't understand any of the laws of thermodynamics. And you can tell because of things like this, right? And you can tell when they say things like, oh, well, the atmosphere would escape because of the second law of thermodynamics. And then also, moonlight is cold, which is a violation of the first law of thermodynamics. So, clearly you don't understand. And creationists will do the same thing, right? They'll say, evolution is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. And here, Bodhi is once again, just like the flat earthers, failing at the first law of thermodynamics. So, I guess the thing to conclude is, if you hear someone saying that a major portion of what we know about science is wrong because of thermodynamics, check to see if they understand thermodynamics, because I can almost guarantee the answer to that question will be no. They don't understand thermodynamics, even a little bit. DM Carl Ipsum Wing for $2 says, what if the Earth was hit by a super cold comet? That would heat up the Earth. As we discussed on Kent with Bent. So, in case you two don't know this, Kent Hovind has this idea that the Ice Age was caused by a super cold 0 Kelvin. He says 0 degrees Kelvin because he's stupid. Comet.
Wait, like, isn't that just like what is 0 degrees Kelvin
Well,
in Celsius?
it's nothing because there's no such thing as degrees Kelvin. But 0 Kelvin
Oh,
is
okay.
like minus 290 something, I think, Celsius.
Okay.
So I mean, it is very cold.
Pretty cold.
But the thing is,
yeah.
this once again is a misunderstanding of the basics of thermodynamics, because if that comet has 0 thermal energy, right? We'll just assume 0 thermal energy, and it's racing towards Earth, it has kinetic energy. And when it hits the Earth, the laws of thermodynamics demand that energy has to go somewhere. So that kinetic energy is going to just turn into thermal energy when it hits the Earth, and all that means is it's going to heat the planet less than if it had a higher temperature, but it's still going to add thermal energy to the planet. So you can't cool the planet by bringing a cold thing to it, because you're still converting potential energy to kinetic energy to thermal energy.
But what if it was like really, 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 really cold?
Yeah, well, that's what absolute 0 would be. That's the coldest it can be. And that would still increase the temperature on Earth, as it turns out. In fact, even if it had negative Kelvin temperature, it would still increase. Because here's a fun fact. Negative degrees temperature in Kelvin are hotter than positive infinity temperature in Kelvin, which is just fun.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it turns out lasers actually have a negative temperature in Kelvin. Yeah. The reason for that is because of the way that temperature is defined. When you get to negative, it means that it can only shed heat to positive temperatures, which means that since we define what's hot versus cold by which way heat flows, if heat flows from negative temperature to positive temperature, always, then any negative temperature is hotter than any positive temperature, which is, physicists, why you do this. But anyway, Rochna, Japonic Means Germanic Caliber 1999 says, I don't even understand why young Earth creationists bring up the laws of thermodynamics. They only apply to isolated systems, and since God is in all things, there's no such thing as an isolated system. They do it specifically because they know that the laws of thermodynamics are a big deal, and they think they can score points on that basis. That's it. That's it. There's no like deeper thought to that. Even Lord Kelvin, who basically invented a lot of what we now know of as thermodynamics, and who apparently was aware, at least to some degree, of evolution, didn't think it violated any laws of science, even though he just didn't like the idea. Now, I don't have a source on that, so take that with a grain of salt. Double check me. Jasper Iki the Mighty for €2 with their 10th super chat on the channel. Thank you very much. Says, what about the second law of thermodynamics? Yeah, I did hear a Flurf say thermodynamics, and that
thermodynamics.
Yeah, that one.
Well, they were in the South Pole. Well, I'm sorry, they were in Antarctica, right? They had to keep their camera batteries in their socks, and whatnot, yeah. Just in their boots, just to keep them warm. Maybe he was talking about thermodynamics.
Yeah, maybe. That's up there with cation instead of cation. That's another one of my favorite Flurf. Like, oh, you clearly don't know what's going on, do you? That actually is probably my favorite, was cation. When a guy was trying to prove that Antarctica was made out of salt. And was reading,
not cations.
Yeah, and he was reading this study about like halite deposits in Antarctica. And he's like, sodium was the major cation.
Yeah, Toom's like, do you mean cation?
Yeah, he's like, hold on. What was that word again?
Analogous to anion? And he's like, what?
The guy also had said anion instead of anion.
No!
Yep.
Anion.
He pronounced it like it rhymed with onion. Alright, what about the cooler summers? When Mount St. Helens, a relatively small volcano, erupted in early 1980 and also in 1982, it shot fine dust particles into the upper atmosphere. This resulted in these lingering particles. Much sunlight was reflected back to space. This is called the haze effect. I don't know why that's all capitalized. It might stand for something. I don't know. And ultimately, cooled the global temperature by about 1/10 of a degree. This is a very large change. Wow. That is actually true. At least if it's a degree Celsius, which it probably was. This is a very large change, considering we usually see fluctuations 1/10 of a degree over the course of years. Does he have a citation for that? I mean, it's true, but like I want to know what the haze is supposed to stand for,
Nothing
and he
there?
doesn't cite it.
No.
Yeah, of course not.
Do you guys? I suspect not. I suspect neither of you guys actually remember the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Do you? Either
I
of
mean,
them?
I remember because I was around. I just wasn't
You're right.
really participating in
Of
human
course.
society. But you know,
Of course, yes, you were. But that was pretty metal.
oh yeah, it was a big deal.
We had I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, and which is, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away from Mount St. Helens, and we had like ash on the on the hoods of our cars and collecting on
Makes sense.
trees, and it was wild.
You should have charged the U.S. Tariff for all those ash imports that they were sending you.
Well, you know, my government doesn't hate us as much as your government does. So
That is a thing. Little off topic. Tariffs are always worse for the nation imposing the tariffs.
Mm.
And the stupidest thing
Well, if only
another
some
country
people
can do.
understood that, right?
Yeah, the stupidest thing a country can do in response to having tariffs placed on their goods is to then place tariffs on the other country's goods, which will only hurt their own citizens. It's basically stop punching yourself, like, at a global economic scale, except instead of the other person holding your hand and punching you with it, you actually are just punching yourself. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Retaliatory tariffs
One of my
don't hurt the
favorite-
other country. They only hurt you. They're really dumb. Don't.
Yeah, one of my favorite memes is the line drawing of Jacob wrestling the angel, and somebody captioned it, and then the angel said to Jacob, "Stop hitting yourself."
Roshino, Japonic means Germanic
Yeah.
color for $1.99 says, I always ask for extra onions on my hamburger. And Wayne Rossi, who's been a member for 22 months and is at the amniote level, says, when you have a satchel full of man bits, it's called the AIG effect. Yes, we will take a drink for that. Okay, consider this with regard to mountain building. Okay, at the end stages of the flood, and soon after, as the world became adjusted. Dude, became adjusted? The world adjusted! You don't need to say became adjusted, just say adjusted. Was there an editor for
Grammar.
this book?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna
maybe it was Ken. Was it Ken?
It might have been. As the world adjusted to its new arrangements, there we go. There still remains the evidence of immense numbers of inactive volcanoes around the world that were likely from this stabilization period. Okay, I mean, yeah, if we assume that your completely insane ideas about geology were true, then sure. But, like, that's a pretty big ask, Bodhi. Many of these volcanoes dwarf the size of Mount St. Helens. The global temperature could have remained rather cool for some time, but then you just told us that that's not going to help. So what are you talking about? And let's not forget that other factors such as higher cloudiness, highly reflective snow, and lower carbon dioxide, okay, which could also contribute to growing ice ages and cause this to extend for hundreds of years. I mean, yes, it is the case that more clouds and more snow increase the albedo of the planet, which is basically just the percentage of radiation that is reflected rather than absorbed, which then does mean that the planet heats less. So those are important.
Before moving on, am I correct in understanding that he's got higher cloudiness, highly reflective snow, and lower carbon dioxide in quotation marks, because that's the direct quotation from
Mike Ord.
Mike Ord.
Yeah, I believe
like
so.
He doesn't have to do that.
Not really,
right?
no.
Like no. Like he doesn't have to do that at all.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
Like that's just I'm saving this one because I've only got one left.
Look, I would rather see this than like Armando Calvo style, just blatant plagiarism throughout the entire book.
Sure. But like this book had I'm using the term loosely, but this book had an actual publisher, though, right?
Yeah, but it was AIG.
I'm using the term loosely.
Okay.
And I see the book it's citing is a book published by ICR. So, well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kyle Pratt from 199 says assertions without evidence. The book, yeah, basically. Look, here's my thing, right? I would rather someone fail on the side of over citation than not citing enough and turning it into plagiarism. So,
I mean, I guess, but like, there's a point at which you just make yourself look dumb.
okay, but we're way past that point.
This isn't helping,
right?
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're like it's basically like you're just watching someone like down seawater in a glass, and you're like, okay, but don't put any salt on your rice. Like it's too late for that, man. We're way past the point where that matters.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. So here is remnant landscape revealing the destruction of the Ice Age all the way to the coast of Sweden near Kungshamn.
So what are we looking at then?
So I believe so. We're in Sweden. So what's probably happening is that we're looking at bedrock that was scraped away by a glacier, and he's probably right about that, right?
But it'd be useful, wouldn't it, to say something? Because I have no idea.
Well, maybe he's going to describe it further down.
Oh, okay.
Because this is just the image on the page, so you know.
I was having a great day, but I'm really starting to get grumpy.
Well, I mean, you did agree to come on and take a look at Young Earth Creationist nonsense with us, so you know. Fair. Every time someone complains about the nonsense that I expose them to on this channel, it's like, you know what the channel is. I didn't hold you at gunpoint to make you come on. You knew what you were getting into. We
won't talk about how I spent my evening last night.
An atmospheric scientist, Mike Ord. That's not how I would describe Mike Ord, but you know, it's fine. Has worked on a model for the Ice Age. Dr. Larry Vardaman has worked on the subject as well. I have no idea who that is, but what's 14? Ibid.
Ibid.
Oh. Okay. So just
I know
Mike
that
Ord
is.
on Ice Age.
Mike Ord. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. So Mike Ord said that Larry Vardaman also worked on the subject. Okay. Weird that you have to cite Mike Ord to say that this guy also worked on it, but sure. By their reckonings, the Ice Age peaked about 500 years after the flood, 400 years after Babel. If their calculations were correct, then the peak of the land surface areas would have been about time as well. In fact, this would correlate rather well with the dispersion of people in various places around the world, from the Americas to Britain, Japan, potentially even to Australia and beyond. Yes, Bodhi, it is true that the crazy hypothesis cooked up by Michael Ord, in order to explain how a flood and Ice Age could explain the current world, then corresponds to the current world as long as you ignore the actual evidence, right? Like, if I come up with some crazy hypothesis specifically to explain, like, I don't know, the books in the back of, in Kip's background here, it'll probably do that, but it probably also won't correspond to things like, I don't know, the actual publication dates, or Kip's memories, or the sales records of various bookshops where he might have got those books. But if all you do is take in isolation my crazy idea that actually he got them from an alien spaceship that landed out there in Canada, while it was actually trying to find its way to a more civilized and habitable region of the world closer to the equator, and they happened to have a bunch of books that they had bought from a publisher over in London, and see, you can tell because my idea predicts the actual colors that would be used based on my idea of the visual range of the color receptors of the alien cells. Okay, cool. Does that make that a plausible explanation, even though it can kind of explain a few things about that if you take it in isolation? No, it doesn't. I just designed an absolutely crazy idea for which there's no evidence, and there's plenty of countermanding evidence. But yeah, I made it fit into the reality I was trying to explain. Whoop-de-doo.
I feel like I need to. I feel. Can you go back up for a second, because I feel like I
we
need
didn't
to
get an
echo
explanation of
some no, not that far, because I feel the need to echo some of Jillian Iceberg Cloud Wren's frustration with this footnote. We would leave open options of this peak being sooner than later. This calculation is good, but not seen as absolute.
Even though it actually is an absolute calculate. Yeah, okay, pro tip to creationists. In science, an absolute value doesn't mean absolutely true, unquestionable, the correct value. What it means is you can put a number on it. So it contrasts.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of absolute value in math where you have the bars.
Oh, yeah.
And so negative and positive, they have the same absolute value, but it's like,
Yeah.
I think.
So an absolute measurement means that you can put a number and a unit on it, right? So if I say, okay, I have 2 pens, one of them, let's say 3 pens. One of them is 8 inches long. The other one is 7.5 inches long. And then the other one is 7 3/4 inches long. Those are absolute measurements. If, however, I say pen A is shorter than pen B and longer than pen C, but I don't put numbers or units on it, that is a relative measurement. So in terms of things like paleontology, geology, climatology, the difference is between absolute and relative is just ordering them in some kind of ascending or descending order without units or numbers. Oh, drink from Mothra. And an absolute measurement is when you put numbers and units. Even if you're wrong, that's still an absolute measurement, because that's the kind of measurement it is. Absolute measurements can be wrong. If I said the distance between my house and Kip's house is 42 kilometers, that is an absolute measurement. I'm pretty sure it's wrong, unless Kip lives in a very different location than what he's been telling me.
It's at least 42 or whatever number you
It is at least 42.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, fair enough. So that's just a little science thing where it's just like, Bodhi, you don't know the basics about.
No, I'm willing to bet that I live at least 42 kilometers away from everyone in the chat. I'm willing to
At
bet
least.
Well, okay, I was thinking, yeah, you do kind of live out in the middle of nowhere.
that.
I was like, there could be some people right there
America's
in BC.
hat.
Well, yeah, but in addition, from what I understand, you also live in a fairly rural location, even, in
Listen,
BC.
It's not so.
Wait, Kip,
geography
would you not
here,
be
guys.
America's toque?
Oh,
Well, I mean, that is
yes.
just a kind of hat, but
There
yeah,
you go.
yeah.
Yeah. So some geography here.
Mhm.
Vancouver. You start on the left, the west side. All right, Vancouver. Then, goddamn, I forgot. Sorry, Vancouver. Then Richmond. Then Burnaby. Then Surrey. Then Langley. Then Abbotsford. Then Chilliwack. So, but it's like a it's like a constant, right?
Well, I mean, that's because there's only one road in Canada, the Trans-Canada Highway.
That is not the reason. But it's
agree to
it's
disagree.
like I don't. There are over 120,000 people who live just in my house. No,
Wait a
in
minute.
Chilliwack. But
I was like, wow, you must have a very big, very crowded house.
God, it's seriously these days it feels like 120,000 people in my house. But it's not quite the middle of nowhere.
In other words,
Sometimes I wish it was.
Kip lives
And
in
yes,
an uninhabitable wasteland with no other humans within sight.
Yes, Al Trucker, Chilliwack was a great band. Thank you.
All right. All right. For the land bridge, the Bering Strait to be exposed, the ocean level would have to be lower, and this mechanism is rather plausible. The ice age that followed the flood would be the perfect mechanism to remove water from the ocean and deposit on land, thus reducing the ocean level. This is based on the current depth of the Bering Strait, which Ord believes was a bit shallower in the early stages of the ice age. I have no idea how he got to that or whether or not it's reasonable. It doesn't strike me as completely impossible, so I'm just going to okay, sure. Regardless, there was a place to cross and perhaps even settle in. Yeah, I will actually agree with Bodhi. It's entirely possible that, at least during the Ice Age, most recent glaciation, there were in fact settlements in the Bering Strait, like on the land there. It would be a pain in the ass to figure it out because I don't know if you guys know this, but the waters there are not what you would call calm or easy to work on. I've been there in a ship, and even in an aircraft carrier, which is bigger than most ships that aren't cargo ships. Whew, I got pretty damn seasick there. It was not a fun time. It was, yeah. I don't ever need to be in like the areas around like the Bering Strait ever again in my entire life on a boat. Just don't need it. So yeah, it would be a pain in the ass to try to figure that out. Unlike like say Doggerland, right, which is the now sunken land between like Great Britain
In the North Sea.
and basically it's just the North Sea when it wasn't a sea. Because that's a lot calmer, right? So it's easier to dredge up artifacts and things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not crazy. Any evidence of settlements in the land bridge areas, I don't really care. I'm going to skip that because whether the answer is yes or not. Oh, wait, hold on. No, I recognize this. We aren't skipping this. What we actually are going to do is we're going to take a break, and then Vishanti is going to start with any evidence of settlements in the land bridge areas because I thought it was just going to be about the Bering Strait. But then I saw the so-called Yonaguni Monument, and yeah, we're going to talk about the Yonaguni Monument because, once again, Bodhi is going full-on Ancient Aliens. So, whoo boy.
It's my favorite kind of aliens. Oh,
Yeah,
actually,
well.
no, sorry, no. How did I say that?
It's not Klingons?
James Cameron's are my favorite kind of
Oh.
aliens, but
Blue Cat Aliens?
that was close. Boy.
All right. Well, yeah, we're gonna take a quick break. Anyone who needs to, use the bathroom, grab a snack, grab a drink. I will chill this martini down a little bit because I haven't finished it and it's now warming up a little. And we will see you on the other side of the break. And there should be a Star Trek teaser for Star Trek Lexington because unfortunately we didn't get to play yesterday, but instead Chesh came on and she did an awesome art stream where she did the character art for the character she's going to be playing. It's not quite done. She just has to add the badge and the rank pips. But it also got into a whole lot of cool stuff about like different tabletop RPGs and the pros and cons of different editions of Dungeons and Dragons, all sorts of nerdy stuff with some great art. So if you like any of that stuff, go check that out over on Top Hats Off. And the reason we didn't play is because this is now public. Craig had to evacuate from his flat because the roof is gone because of the storm.
The storm.
And so yeah, he's booked at a hotel and he does not know what the status of that flat is going to be. He is no longer under a evacuation order. So we're all hoping that things are okay. And I don't know. Wish Craig well over on his community tab where he let everyone know what was going on with him. So yeah, because that's pretty crappy. So as far as I know, though, everyone, including his dog, is safe. So his kids, his wife, his dog, all safe at a hotel that allows dogs, apparently. So at the very least,
Best kind.
Yeah, the people and animals, I suppose, and other animals are safe. But yeah, still, it's a pretty big deal. So we're hoping that everything is fine and that he will be able to come back and stream again, not just on my channel, obviously, but also his own, because that's how he supports himself. So. We will be right back.
Macy Cat. That's for Becca.
Right. We will be right back, everybody. Next time on Star Trek Lexington.
Captain's Log, Stardate 7120.1. We are en route to the Temujin system at high warp. We were originally ordered by Admiral Stoker in a strangely worded message to investigate the third planet for Tilakal ruins. It seems that that's all we do lately. The Admiral may be developing a bit of an obsession. Regardless, while we were en route, we received a distress call from the USS Boca Raton, an Archer-class scout ship with a primarily human crew. They claimed that they were attacked by Kzinti slavers, and they launched their escape pods in the vicinity of Temujin 3. Our mission, as important to the Admiral as it may be, is less important than a rescue, which takes priority. Temujin 3 is a Class L planet, with an atmosphere of mostly nitrogen and only 15% oxygen, produced mostly by a microbe called sand plankton. The planet has almost no standing bodies of water and frequent sandstorms. If the crew has made it to the surface, they're probably still alive, but in need of serious aid.
Hey, we are back. Welcome back. Everyone on the panel is very happy with me. I definitely didn't let any of them down during the break. So now that we have that established, and that is the official thing that happened, and there is no way to question any of that, I want to say thank you very much for everyone for being so supportive and generous with their super chats, join the channel, all that stuff. If you are currently someone who is enjoying the channel, but you're not currently supporting financially, and that's something you would like to do and can afford to do, that's the important part there. If you can't afford it, don't do it. Please check out the Patreon, check out the channel memberships. The Patreon starts at $1 a month. The channel memberships start at $1.99 a month. You can get a 50% discount over on the Patreon if you go annual instead of monthly. There is also, both of them give you access to the Discord that's just for people who are supporting. They both give you early access to my videos. I just released a video this week. My hope is to release one by the end of next week for early access. So I think there's just under 30 videos or something. Maybe it's more like 25 or something. But they're just available for early access right now. Months and months worth of content that you could just access early. If a monthly or an annual thing isn't your deal, I have a merch store. It's linked right below this video. There's also more designs that aren't on that shelf down there. So if you want things that aren't on there, and you're just like, oh, I don't see what I like, click through, see what else is on there that you might like. There's also a wish list. Both myself and Vishanti have a wish list. Kip just went off camera. That's okay. He'll be back. So if you want to give either me or Vishanti just a quick gift to, boost our happy chemical levels here in these trying times, that's a great way to do it. Kip also has a Patreon, I believe, right, Vishanti?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And both Kip and Vishanti have their channels linked, so if there are any things that I've forgotten about, please make sure to check their channels, and you can see whatever it is that I might have forgotten to tell you about. That being said, once again, thank you so much. If you can't afford to do any of those things, or you just don't want to, that's perfectly fine. You don't even need to explain it to me. But what I would appreciate either way is if you could like the video and maybe share the video, maybe comment on some of my videos. And when you comment, don't mention the algorithm, because the algorithm knows to notice the algorithm comments and to ignore them. Because the algorithm is like playing 4D chess. So you got to play 5D chess. So there you go. All right. I think it is, believe it is Vishanti's turn. So, Vishanti, is there any evidence of settlements in the land bridge areas?
Today, am I?
Probably not, unless Vishanti's very
Probably
fast.
not. Okay.
Okay.
Remind me, and we'll start with you next time.
All right. Any evidence of settlements in land bridge areas? It's going to be great. By which I mean terrible. Actually, there's more than one may realize. Actually. Many have pointed to the offshore Japanese temple at Yonaguni.
What?
Researchers initially heard of the claim and thought it was a natural formation, but upon investigation, they have changed their tune. Which researchers?
This is the same
evidence.
researchers as some researchers believe from Ancient Aliens.
Some.
And when I say it's the same one, I mean literally Ancient Aliens has done an episode about this, and it's the exact same researchers that they mean.
Mm-hmm. There is much evidence that cannot be interpreted without the hand of man's involvement.
By much, he
What's
means
the citation
literally
there?
none.
Like that's just a weird
What's the citation there?
sentence phrase.
17.
Without the hand of man's involvement.
It is very weird.
Julian Ryall, Japan's ancient underwater pyramid mystifies scholars. National Geographic News, the peer-reviewed journal National Geographic.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Hmm.
Okay.
What do we
Scroll
know
back
about? That's probably just like a staff writer, eh?
There
Oh,
are
yeah.
10 structures off of this site, and also 5 structures that have been identified off the coast of Okinawa. One such feature is a step pyramid or ziggurat, and it's the same citation. Flipping to the European side, a news report pointed out what fishermen have known for quite some time. I guess peer-reviewed fishermen. It was not uncommon for fishermen using boats like beam trawlers to bring up things at the bottom of the North Sea, being that portions of it are rather shallow and the nets drag along the ground. He should have put a comma there. From time to time, they would bring up artifacts from ancient cultures. Divers have now been studying the subject and found a number of things, especially ancient tools. So we just jumped from Doggerland to What? Why do we?
Yonaguni. Because
What,
they're both
Japan-
similar depths, basically.
Oh my god. The land was clearly part of the mainland due to lower ocean levels, with evidence of mammoths and civilizations that was ultimately overrun by rising sea levels. One Dutch archaeologist has accumulated over 100 artifacts already. 100, wow.
Wow.
Actually, not a lot in the grand scheme, but you know. Also, I love that he's citing the Daily Fail. Oh my god.
Of course he is.
Literally
Britain's-
one of just the worst tabloid rags.
Britain's Atlantis.
So let's talk
Mhm.
about the actual Yonaguni structure. So
This is the one that Graham Hancock loves, right?
yeah, he also loved. They all do. So here's
Yeah,
here's what's
okay.
happening, right? It's mostly mudstone and sandstone, which are sedimentary rocks, and it is broken along approximately 90-degree angles in various places, with roughly horizontal surfaces on many places. And that has led people to think that it is man-made. But one of the other things is, well, let's just check this. Kip and Vishanti, as humans who have been around in human-type areas for much of your lives,
Yes.
you may have seen these things that are structures that humans have designed in order to allow them to change the level of the structure that they happen to be on. And they're called
Mhm.
stairs, and I'm assuming you're both familiar with them, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yes.
is one of the most
I've seen
important
those.
things you can do to keep stairs both useful and relatively safe in terms of like spacing between the stairs?
Well,
Make
make
sure
sure they're
they're
not taller than the people ascending and descending them. First
That's a
thing.
big one,
Might
yeah.
do it.
Second of all,
I was going to say that you should make sure that the rise is the same, right?
Right.
that too.
Mhm.
Also,
Mhm.
if you want to keep them accessible, installing a handrail is also pretty much required.
Would you be surprised to learn that the alleged staircases at the Yonaguni structure neither have consistent rises nor runs on the stairs, nor handrails, and many of the alleged stairs are in fact significantly taller than any normally sized human could ascend in a single step?
Well,
Well,
I'm shocked, I tell you.
listen, I would have been surprised at that bit of information before realizing that Yonaguni is something that's promoted by Graham Hancock.
Mhm.
So,
Now, here's
Mhm.
another thing. Would it surprise you to note that all of the various approximately, 90-degree breakages have evidence of there having been natural cleavage points in the rock, and that you can actually find similar cleavage points that could break into 90-degree angles in the actual sedimentary rock elsewhere in the formation that just hasn't broken yet?
I like that you said cleavage,
Thank you.
and I like that you said it twice.
It is actually a technical term in geology.
Wow.
So yeah, this is just a rock. It's a funny shaped rock, I'll give you that, but it's just a rock. That's
Hmm.
it. That's all it is. There is absolutely no reason to think that this is a human-made rock apart from pareidolia. It kind of looks like humans might have made it, which I don't know if you guys know this, but looks like isn't how science works.
Mm-mm.
But it is how a lot of
Mm-mm.
pseudoscience works. In fact,
Yeah,
It
that's
is-
the basis
Mhm.
of pseudoscience right
do,
there.
Yeah.
do you know the
Looks
young
like.
Earth creationist term cognitum?
Well, that
Oh,
sounds like
drink for
copium.
Mothra. It does.
Yeah. Well, explain this one to me.
Okay, so the cognitive. Shut up, Mothra. I'm sorry, but you're just keep going. Jeez.
She
All
can
right.
do whatever she wants.
Okay, so the cognitum is the way that creationists have found to allow them to roughly figure out what they're going to call the kinds, right? Because they have this idea that God didn't specially create every single species. He created larger groups that differentiated into modern species called kinds. So there might have been a canid kind and a felid kind and I don't know, like a mustelid kind. To keep it within mammals, I suppose. So the cognitum is basically their fancy way of saying, well, it's a kind because it kind of looks like it. That's it. That's the whole thing. They're like, you intuitively know where kinds are, and we call that the cognitum, which is literally just
Cognitum.
yes, or sometimes cognitum. they go back and forth on what the value of that I is after the N. And it is literally just them coming up with a fancy word for, well, it kind of looks like it when I used my Mark 1 eyeballs to kind of guess at what a kind is. Yeah. But they don't want to say that all they did was they just kind of eyeballed it and said, this looks intuitively good to me. So they came up with a fancy Latin-sounding word.
And they published this in places.
Yep. This is published in their so-called technical literature.
Cognitum.
Yes. Cognitum.
That's how I would have spelled it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes exactly from where you think it would in Latin. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Metageeky Platypus Warlock for $5 says,
wow.
A plan to extend the Bimini Road to the Yonaguni Monument was stopped by Lemurian environmentalists. Must protect the Godzilla breeding grounds. And we will take a drink for that. Thank you very much. So yeah, it is hard for me to come up with a better example of why young Earth creationism just is a pseudoscience than just they formalized pareidolia in their literature with a special Latin-sounding name. I don't know what else to tell you. Like
that is kind of amazing.
It is, and they just say it. Like, yeah, we use the cognitum technique to determine the boundary of these kinds. Like, oh, okay.
Bree says that Cognito would have been a good name for Professor X.
All right. Do you want to continue on?
Yes, but you have to scroll to the next page.
Oh.
In order for me to do that. Check that out.
Ooh, oh, nice.
Look at those very even, clearly human-made steps.
Yeah.
Rise and run or just whatever.
Yeah, no, they're not even consistent across each step. Like this top platform here runs from very, very thick in the foreground to fairly thin over on like the left-hand side. And like, no. Just no.
Okay. Oh my
genealogist.
Goodness.
Why are
genealogist and historian James Anderson? I would have perhaps flipped those two credentials, but what do I know? I'm just a member of the APG. That's fine. Perhaps unwittingly pointed out that the residual effects of this were happening up into Roman times near Denmark. He writes in the 1730s of the Danes, but being encroached upon by the
of what? Sorry. Is happening? The residual effects of what?
The sea rise.
The sea rise. Also, Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $4.99.
But he's a genealogist.
Yeah.
And historian.
That makes him an expert at sea level rise. That's how that works. Yep. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $4.99 says cognitum is entirely equivalent to argumentum ex anno, which, yes, it is. And if you don't understand that, maybe put it into Google's Translate, and you can find out what ex anno means. And just remember to put one N, because two N's is an entirely different word.
That's totally different.
Yep. Okay. So, quoting genealogist and historian, but being encroached upon by the inundation of the sea, they petitioned the Romans for a settlement in their dominions, and the Romans neglecting them. Is it Cimbrians or Cimbrians?
I'm going to go Cimbrians is probably closer to the Latin pronunciation, but also there's no Romans who are going to be around to critique your pronunciation, so do whatever you want. Okay.
They joined the German nations against Rome, and by their sword, 3 Roman consuls were defeated.
Okay, so
the sea had driven them back into Jutland, which is modern-day Denmark, and even today the Danes build dams to try to reclaim just small portions of land from the sea. Many other examples could be cited, but this should suffice to get the point across. This is but the beginning, and an entire book could be published on the subject or even on the undersea findings alone. In fact, I would hope more research is done on the subject in due time.
Okay. Jeez.
Bodhi.
Yeah.
Is the point that you're a fucking idiot?
That's the other one. You got the 2.
Yeah. Is it? But is that it? Is that
might actually be it?
Is that the point?
It's okay. So For one thing, the land reclamation from the sea is primarily done in the Netherlands. So, but the problem is that we don't have any historical accounts of these land reclamation projects being in response to previously known to the people doing the land reclamation uncovered land being recovered, right? What they actually do is they're like, hey, we need more land for like tulip farms or whatever it is that you do out in the Netherlands, which I presume is tulip farms and windmills, to grind up the tulips into tulip flour, which is what I'm going to go with. And no, I will not be taking any critiques or answering any questions about that. The Dutch grind tulips into tulip flour. Anyway, so when there's a need for new land, historically, they were like, hey, we can build another dike, which is just an earthenwork dam, to hold back more of the ocean and reclaim or just claim that land. But there's no evidence that that was because they thought of that bottom of the ocean area as having been like flooded within historical or living memory. That's just not a thing. Now, it is true that we found out sometime in the 20th century that this area that the Dutch people are carving out with their dikes used to be land that was inhabited. But that's something we found out this century. The medieval people in the Netherlands didn't know that. They were just claiming the sea, and yeah, they found it weird that there were a bunch of logs out there and whatnot. But like, whatever. They're too busy grinding their tulips into tulip flour with windmills. All right. Let's see. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for 499 says, why are we citing a secondary source from the early 18th century? Because it agrees vaguely with Bodhi. That's it. That's all it takes for Bodhi. Is if he can pull a quote out that kind of agrees with him, good enough for him. He's off to the race. Let's not forget, there in it, like I believe it was the 70s, maybe the 80s, right? There was an entire book published by creationists of just collected quotes with often incorrect attributions that was used to make quote mining easier for creationists. They published a reference of quote mines. That's who we're talking about here. Now, not Bodhi as a person, right? I don't think he was doing that back in like the 70s. I don't think he's that old. But like, you have to remember, when it comes to young earth creationists, they are so blatantly intellectually and academically dishonest that they published a guide to quote mine. They didn't call it that, but that's what it was. Many of the quotations were either wrong or the citations didn't match the quotations, which were actual quotations just from something else. And almost all of which were badly out of context. So, like, you have to remember who we're talking about here. Lieutenant Fitz of Rage, who's been a member for 17 months and is at the annual level, says, Homer? Who is Homer? My name is Guy Incognito. And it also has a Godzilla, a Mothra, a Ghidorah, and an AIG as a bag of dicks, and both the good and the bad kind of tunicates. So we will take a drink for that one. Thank you very much. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for 199, which with what might be the most appropriate super chat possible at this juncture, says, bless his heart. Which, yeah. Bodhi, bless your heart, my guy. Landon Knoll for 1999 said, by the way, here's a fun thing about Landon Knoll. I was doing an art stream once using Blender, and I mentioned that I try not to use the division operator in Blender because the multiplication operator is faster. Instead, when I need to divide, I just get the reciprocal and multiply by the reciprocal. It turns out it's Landon's fault that computers are better at multiplying than division. That was a decision made by Landon that has affected basically all computers ever since. Because that's just the kind of guy Landon is. So Landon Knoll for 1999 says, Dapper Dinosaur, looking forward to a debate tavern today. Yes, I believe it's actually called a Debate Pub now is the name of the show. Vishanti, I hope things are improving for you. Wave at Kip Davis. Sorry, TM Canada, with Canadian flag, as the downstairs neighbor for my obnoxious roommates, as they're a bag of AIGs with a eggplant emoji, so we will take a drink. Thank you very much.
I'm kind of annoyed that I can't find the Canadian flag emote that Landon used. Why can't I find that one?
I don't know.
Is it because I'm a boomer? Is that it?
Probably.
It could be, yeah.
So,
It could be that.
to answer your question, Landon Knoll, things have really not improved for me, but I thank you for asking.
Hmm.
You're welcome to message me privately if you want more details.
All right. So thank you very much, Landon. Let's see. So wait, is the entirety of the evidence of the settlement on these land bridges that he's offering is just some historian talking
And a
about
genealogist.
Danes and not
Yes.
the Dutch, who's a genealogist, and then also the existence of a rock that kind of looks like humans might have cut it into it until you look at it for more than 30 seconds. There's actual good evidence of the settlement of now undersea locations in places like Doggerland that he could have brought up, right? Like, that could have helped your case, Cody. You could have talked about the spearheads, the butchered animal bones, like all of this stuff from Doggerland. I believe there are even wooden statues that have been found in Doggerland. Don't quote me on that. I'm just trying to remember. But, like, that could have been the thing you went with. But instead you went with some guy who no one has heard of, who wrote a history from like the 19th century, and a natural rock formation that looks kind of funny to conspiracy theorists. Why am I a better young Earth creationist than most?
Unimpeachable logic there.
Why am I a better young Earth creationist than most young Earth creationists? I could
Do
write
you
a
have any
better book
idea
than this.
how much money? If you wanted, how much money
Mm-hmm.
could you make doing this?
Doing it
Like,
better
you
than
could-
Bodhi.
You could open your own AIG, dude.
Could. But I would feel so
Blackjack
gross.
and hookers.
Well, yeah, my AIG would in fact have blackjack and hooker, which would mean I think I would have to open it in like rural Nevada. If I wanted to have it in the United States,
Yeah.
because it turns out that the rule on hookers in Nevada is brothels are legal, but only if the county is below a certain population, and so that's why
Okay.
Wow.
can't actually open brothels in like Reno or Vegas. You have to go out into like the hinterlands to find the legal brothels out in Nevada. Yeah, so look out for the
That
Dapper
works.
Dinosaur themed casino
Yes.
brothel creation museum in the coming years out in rural Nevada. I'm going to call it Dinosaur Gambling
Adventureland?
Misadventure.
That was
Adventureland.
taken.
Yeah, Dinosaur Misadventureland might be good. It could also be like Dapper's Gambling Creationist and Ladies of the Night Emporium.
Extravaganza.
Emporium Extravaganza.
Di-
Emporium Bonanza.
Ooh.
Dinosaur members only club.
You know what?
Um,
It's you get a discount if you're a dinosaur, but if you're a mammal, you can still join. Just costs more.
mm,
And I will
Mhm.
check your glands to make sure that you actually have sufficient sebaceous glands to be in the mammal club. So don't worry, I'll check. Let's see. I'm still not entirely.
oh my god!
So I'm gonna go with
do you have things that you have
Turgipes.
to read?
Yes.
Sorry.
So
Okay.
I'm going to go with Turgipes for 11.99 euros. Says, here's some fun money so Kip can relate off some. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking like release off some steam. Sorry it took me so long to send this. I was busy making tulip flower. That is now the new Dapper Dinosaur lore for what the Netherlands is. It's just a tulip flower factory.
Yep.
Because look, what is it? I was gonna say, what's the average American though? But like, the average American who actually paid attention in any of history class, this is what they know about the Netherlands: dikes, tulips, windmills, and they don't know how any of those
Yep.
things relate to each other.
Clogs.
Yeah, clogs might be in there too. Yeah, that's it. It's just stereotypes that end sometime around like the 18th century. That's it.
It is the same amount of information about the Netherlands that I gleaned from reading Uncle Scrooge comics.
There you go. Joshua Geese has just given
Oh my
5
God.
Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So here's 5 drinks. Kip, go ahead. What you were talking about while I take my 5 drinks.
Am I finally going to get a chance to read here?
No.
Fuck.
Oh, you did
Look,
it.
you made me. Come on. That doesn't count, does it?
It does. Rosha, Japonic means Germanic Keller for 199 says, ew, gland secretions remind me of AIG. Take a drink for that.
But how else am I supposed to regulate my body temperature when I'm getting overheated?
It's called panting, or just wallowing in water.
Kip,
Go
not
ahead.
a fan.
What? Sorry.
Go ahead.
What's that?
Migration times. Feel free.
Okay. So, migration times. It's a fun fact, by the way, that this was the precursor periodical to the epoch times. Migration times. How long would it take for people to travel to the Americas? It takes me no time at all. I don't know about you, but I can do it instantly.
I can do it 9 times. Also, I don't have to go anywhere. I'm already in the Americas, so
Yeah.
It took me 9 hours.
the Americas, not Americas in the United States, bro. You're already in the Americas. Just the northern part.
All right. Ord suggests 60 years is a crude back of the envelope calculation to estimate the minimum time it would take to reach South America. From where?
Siberia,
The actual-
I guess?
The actual migration would likely have been more complicated and slower. Migration could have happened in spurts. Some tribes have settled for a while in a location before moving on. Emphasis words. This just sorry, I just have to. I'm giggly because I just have to point out that one of my favorite memorialized quotes from one of my favorite scholars of Judaism is when Daniel Boyarin said that in ancient Israel, prophecy came in spurts. All right, do you have things to say?
First,
Man, this is right up there with my lips play flute for the highest.
I gotta say, 60 years seems like an absurdly quick time as the minimum. I don't see how he figures.
I don't know.
That.
Is it where is he starting from?
Siberia. Because we're talking about the Bering Land Bridge as the place where people are coming from.
I guess so, but we don't know for sure, do we?
I mean, the only thing I have to go on is the context, and Bodhi's context for the peopling of the Americas via land bridges was the Bering Strait, or the Bering Land Bridge, as it was at the time. So that's the only way I can interpret this that makes it cohere with what came before or after. And I know that wanting it to cohere with what comes or after is a dangerous thing when it comes to Bodhi because he's completely incoherent. But I don't know how else to interpret this.
Okay.
Cognitive Trifurcation, who's been a member for 10 months and is at the Amulette level, says, personally, I think the creationists are so bad at creationism for the same reason scammers suck at grammar. If you can see the issue, you're not the mark. Oh, that's a good point, right? Because, like, scammers actually want the people who don't notice that their spelling and grammar is atrocious. Because if you're that smart, you're too smart for the scam. It could be that. But the thing is, though, I've known some people who were creationists just because, like, that's the religion they grew up with and they never bothered to change that, but who were smart at various things that they did in their daily lives, right? Who could write fiction well, or who could draft letters well and things like that. And they just didn't ever look into the creationist topics, and that wasn't really a big thing for them. But then again, maybe if your mark is actually the people for whom it is a big thing, then yeah, if they're too smart, it's pointless anyway, so you might as well dumb it down. Yeah, I can see. Okay. I mean, there are complications, but I can see that being a thing. Good point. Cognitive trifurcation. All right, sorry about that, Kip.
No, you're good. You're good. So I on that point, I have a question.
Mhm.
Because I'm curious for the chat. Is Bodhi Hodge worse at creationism, or is David A.C. Hillman worse at Greek? Or
Ooh.
is Richard Carrier worse at history?
Okay, here we go. We're gonna add a poll.
Are we doing a poll?
Yeah,
Can
we're
we
gonna do a poll. We're gonna do a poll.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
I'll continue reading while you
Well-
set up this poll.
All right.
Ord calculates that migrating people could make it to South America in a minimum of about 60 years. I completely agree that this was not the most likely scenario. Good to know. As Ord points out, the migrations would be slower than this. I read this one already, didn't I? I'm sorry. It's the spurts one again. It would take time to travel, as a tribe would probably settle in an area for a while before moving on, or more specifically, before their descendants moved along. Many early tribes were probably migrating from time to time too. These spurts would include the time to get to the Bering Strait from the Middle East. I think I'm right here. This is not Siberia. But how should we
No, because
know?
the Bering Strait,
Until
right?
now,
So he's
right?
talking about people going from the Middle East, where he thinks they all start,
Yeah.
to Siberia,
Yeah.
and then
But
from
to get
Siberia.
to the Americas. But I don't know. Look. Okay. But he says it right here.
Yeah, maybe he
Time
does.
spurts would include the time
Okay.
to get to the Bering Strait from the Middle East, as well as the time to spread through the Americas.
Oh, that's extra stupid. I was giving Bodhi way too much credit then. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Dare I try to give Bodhi any benefit of the doubt that he was at all in any way being reasonable?
From there, sorry, I should have some water. From there, they went south and spread throughout the continent and on down to Central and South America. So, logically, a couple hundred years would be ample time to spread across Asia to the Bering Strait. Many of the first travelers to the Americas. I'm not pausing for effect here. Okay. Probably arrived about 200 to 500
Oh, we do
years
finally get
after
Doggerland.
the flood. Oh, nice. Or 100 to 400 years after Babel, at about 2142 BC to about 1842 BC. So that would be that would be the early Bronze Age.
Okay,
Wow.
hold on. Vadim Marchenko has pointed out that apparently
Wow.
Bodhi has boasted about going to France and lists it as one of the countries he's visited because one of his international flights had to change and have an unexpected landing at the Paris airport, and then he caught another flight in Paris to his actual destination. Guys, if you don't leave the airport, you haven't visited the country. I'm sorry. But that's just a rule, right? Like on my first trip to South Korea, I landed in an airport in Japan, and I took off from an airport in Japan. And while I did buy a few funny like English knickknacks from the Japanese airport, I did not count that as me visiting Japan because I didn't. Right? I didn't have to go through Japanese customs. I didn't have to like have my bags checked. I didn't get a stamp on my passport from Japan. I didn't visit Japan. And the fact that Bodhi is doing that with France, I mean, is this guy 8?
Mm-hmm.
What is happening right now?
That's so funny. Like, because I can tell people legitimately I visited Iceland because I wasn't paying full attention when I booked the return flight home from London, and I had a unintended stopover for half a day. But But I did leave the airport and I stayed at a hostel and it was very pleasant.
There
So
you go. That counts.
I can say, like, yeah, I did visit Iceland, just not a whole lot.
Like 12
I would love to go
hours.
back and do that again.
I
Just well, like 18, but yeah.
have not visited Iceland, but I'm pretty sure I have my bags checked in Iceland.
That doesn't count then. If it's just the bags being
That's
checked.
why I said.
Yeah.
I said I've not visited Iceland.
Yeah.
Everybody's really nice. Prices for things are obviously really, really high, but
Yeah.
very nice.
Odie really
Paganism.
is like he really is like an 8-year-old who just never actually grew up. He never got better at writing. He never got better at thinking. He never got better at anything. Like it seems like dealing with Bodhi on a day-to-day basis must be like dealing with a grown-up child who just didn't grow up in any way other than physically. Like he's got the size of an adult man, and he's got the everything else of a small child.
My adult child, Bodhi.
Seriously. You know what? I feel for Bodhi's wife. That cannot be an easy marriage to deal with. So
she's got a pretty terrible father.
Well, I mean, there
well,
is that
so,
too. Yeah,
I mean-
my goodness. Hey, Bodhi's wife. If you need like a new community and to like extricate
need
yourself, like if you need help, you can reach out. We can probably set you up with resources, help you find legal representation if you need that. Be a new like emotional support network for you if you need to extricate yourself from like your entire
And
family.
pro tip coming from a woman, do not announce in advance if you plan to either leave an abusive spouse or divorce them. Do not announce this in advance. Because there is a frightening statistical correlation between people who say to their abusive partner, I'm going to leave you and or divorce you, who then are...
Murder? Is it murder?
Yeah.
Who are then killed by that partner. So don't announce your plans in advance. Get to a safe place where they cannot harm you anymore.
A place to stay that they don't know where it is. Their
And
communication
then
with
you can
should
drop
be
that
through,
on them later.
Yep. Their communication with you should be through your lawyer, whose
Your lawyers.
contact information you do have to give them. But then, yeah, that should be the only way that you contact. And I mean, honestly, look, there are plenty of men in abusive relationships too. That advice stands for you too. It's a smaller number, but it is absolutely not a zero number, and those people still matter. And yeah, so if you're in an abusive relationship, you need to end it. Get into a safe situation before you let the other person know that you're ending it. Okay, let's keep going. We got a little bit longer.
Again, this is based on Usher's dates. It could be sooner for travelers who went by boat.
Okay.
All right.
In the same way, such land bridges could be exposed to Australia.
Okay, hold on.
No, really?
Brother.
They can't.
I hope he provides a map for this because we're in for a rude awakening.
There is, in fact, a very deep oceanic trench through the middle of like Oceania that actually prevents a land bridge from forming until you basically dry up the entirety of all of the ocean water. There is, in fact, no option for a land bridge between Asia and Australia. It's just not. There's a reason why there's this dividing line in Oceania where you get like Southeast Asian fauna and flora on one side, and on the other side you get like Australian and New Zealand flora and fauna. And there is a little bit of crossover, like bats and many birds can cross over, right? And some species of plants have, with like very hardy, seaworthy seeds like palm trees and whatnot, have done some crossover. But by and large, the animals that you get in places like Indonesia are roughly the same as the ones you get in places like
I'm fairly
Vietnam.
sure that Real Life Lord did a video on this very thing.
I believe so.
And if that's the case, I will link it in the chat.
So, like, in places like Sumatra or Indonesia and whatnot, I guess Indonesia is part of Sumatra is part of Indonesia, whatever, right? The wildlife is basically the same as it is in, like, Vietnam or Cambodia, right? Whereas on the other side, when you get to, like, New Zealand and the islands nearby, the wildlife has much more in common with Australia than it does with, say, Vietnam. It's because of this oceanic trench. That's the reason. Because all those islands are continental islands, but there's a trench between the two continents of Australia and Asia that separates which continent they were a part of. All right. So
So
want to keep going?
Look, I don't know a lot about a lot. I'm just a pedantic variantologist, but like I guessed this, right? As a guy who doesn't know much outside of my own wheelhouse, I guessed this. How does he?
He
I'm just
needs
gonna
a
leave it
way
there.
to get animals.
How does Bodhi?
He needs a way to get animals
All right.
from
Yep.
Asia to Australia, even though it's very clear that those animals in Australia didn't originate in Asia, but he needs them to be able to go there, so he has to make up a way. And he's not quite dumb enough to go with the volcanically launched suborbital platypus hypothesis.
But this just seems so obvious.
Mhm.
It just all right. Of course, you ready?
Well,
with
we got a couple things here. Roshina Japonica means Germanic Keller for 199 says the Wallace line. I do mean the Wallace line. Yep. Naramdaputz, who's been a member for 16 months and is at the Tetrapod level, says turtles aren't grifters, so turtles not impulse. Correct. Putting turtles in this list would be very obviously inappropriate. And we don't have a whole lot longer to go, so I'm just going to end the poll. We only had 49 votes, but that's okay.
Wow.
Let's see. Which grifter is worse at pretending to be an expert? Bodhi won with 61% of the votes.
Wow.
Dick Carrier got 22% of the votes, and David Hillman, who I believe is the least well-known among my audience.
That's probably it, eh?
Yeah, got 16%.
I was wrong. It's PBS Eons.
Oh, okay. So yeah, check out the PBS Eons video about the Wallace line then.
Hang on, I'm going to link it.
Okay.
Nice.
All right, Kip, if you could get... How much longer do we have until we get to another...
Yeah,
that's it. We're just going to do the whole thing.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We might go slightly over time, but that's okay.
Okay. In the same way, did that? Okay. Of course, it is much deeper. Hey, Dagger.
Sorry. I don't know what's happening.
In some places that may have been affected by tectonic activity, which is common in that area today.
Okay, but
this could have caused it.
Here's the problem with this, right? Australia is moving towards Asia. In order for a rift to open up, such that what could have been a land bridge is now a trench, Australia would have to be moving away from Asia. So no, Bodhi, just saying tectonic activity doesn't help, right? It's like saying, why isn't my drink cold? There's heat transfer. Well, okay, but if it's transfer into your drink, then it gets warmer. You have to specify what kind of heat transfer, just like you have to specify what kind of tectonic activity. Just saying, there's tectonic activity, therefore there could be a trench. Yeah, okay, except it is the wrong kind of tectonic activity. Taking a drink. Jeez.
This could have caused it to be much lower today as opposed to the time of the Ice Age.
No,
there is quite...
Sorry.
You good?
No, but you could continue anyway.
Okay. There is quite a bit of evidence left behind. I think that's a call out. Left behind that confirms the extent of the Ice Age in North America, in Europe, and even in other parts of the world.
So Asia.
Don't you like that? And yeah, right. Like, but don't you like that? How everything that's not,
Asia or North America.
White Anglo-Saxon, just other parts of the world.
Yeah.
I don't think I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, those are the important parts. That's where the real people come from, obviously.
Yeah.
A Lieutenant Math Navigator for $4.99 says tectonic plates are connected by big ass bungee cords or something. Nice.
All right, I have one more sentence.
Let's do it
to finish this up. Those arriving by boat, whether from Asia, Europe, Africa, or other places, would not have been limited to the time the Bering Strait or other land bridges were accessible. Some could have come earlier or even much
Wow.
later.
So here,
It'd be really cool if people studied this for, an entire discipline.
it's true.
Too
And
bad.
actually, we know of some places that were settled much, much later, like the Canary Islands and Madagascar.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, did you know that Malagasy, the language spoken in Madagascar, isn't actually related to any African language? It's instead related to languages spoken in India?
Wow, I did not.
Hmm.
That's pretty great.
That's because it was very recently settled. And you might think, well, yeah, but it's so close to Africa. Why didn't Africans settle it? And it's because basically
right
no
there.
currents.
It's not like you can just see it from the
Yeah,
coastline.
you can't see it from the currents. And no currents from
Are you
Africa
sure?
easily bring you to
Yeah, the
Madagascar.
currents don't flow that way.
But the currents from
maybe-
the Indian Ocean on the other side actually do flow towards Madagascar. So there's no easy way to
but-
go from
Mhm.
Africa to Madagascar.
Guys, if they were up in their hot air balloons,
Oh, that's a
early,
good point. Yeah, they wouldn't
could
see
have.
it.
They
Or
could
their
have
hang
seen it,
gliders.
or
Yeah.
the
I like to think they had Ewok-style hang gliders, right? Like they're just made of like twigs and hide stretched across. Yeah.
Oh,
Let's see. Jasper Iki the Mighty for €2 says tectonic activity caused by a very cold comet. All right. Well, what is the next chapter? Let's take a preview. Where did all the people go initially? I will have to skim that to see if we actually want to bother. Because remember,
that could be boring.
it could be, but we're not going through every single chapter of this. We've already skipped a good number.
Yeah.
I'm not even seeing any
Oh.
tables or figures.
I mean, but he's talking about Josephus and Japheth and Ham.
Oh, in that case, we might have to go
Boy,
through it.
we might have to because
Folk etymology, folk
here.
histories.
Yeah.
They're
Oh, he's
only
got
useful to a
Strabo. Okay.
Oh,
He's
Well,
citing
take
the
a look.
They're
prose
only useful
Edda.
to a point. Like,
you decide.
He's citing the prose Edda.
Edda.
Okay, Bodhi.
wow. And of course, he's citing answers in Genesis for one of his
Creation,
resources.
right,
A Baker
obvious.
Bible Atlas. Yeah,
I like
Mm.
John Gill
Mm.
commentary on the Bible. Yeah.
My goodness.
Oh, go back
Oh,
up.
we got
Because
Henry
you gotta
Moore
go back. Did you
in
see
there,
this? Did you notice
Polybius.
it's Josephus Antiquity of the Jews.
Just the one antiquity.
Oh no,
Oh my
Bodhi.
god, no.
Bodhi.
Oh, no.
All right, I'm gonna go
This is
read
so
from
bad.
the book of Psalm, chapter 2. Oh, hey, what about a reading from the book of Revelations?
I'm pretty sure he thinks that it means I'm pretty sure he thinks the meaning of the title is that the Jews are really old.
And it's his book as to explaining why the Jewish people go back so far.
Josephus wrote this book all about
How old the Jews are.
the Jews are super old, y'all.
And you don't even know.
That
Oh, hey,
Well,
Bodhi.
yeah, pro tip, if you try typing antiquity of the Jews in a search bar, it will correct you.
To antiquities. Awesome.
It'll say, did you mean antiquities?
Amazing.
Brief.
Roshan Japonic means Germanic Keller for 499 says Dapper confirms Lemuria with Madagascar language reference. Yep. Lemuria was real, everybody. The opening credits to the original Battlestar Galactica, or the opening monologue, absolutely 100% real. Yep. All right,
Space
so
Mormonism.
it's just space Mormonism. But you know what? It's fun, and there is a chimpanzee in a robot dog costume. And nothing that has a baby chimpanzee in a robot dog costume can be non-entertaining. So I've actually seen that costume in person. I was at the Sci-Fi Museum in Seattle. They actually have the original Boxy costume that the chimp wore in there. It was cool and weird. So
I'm sorry, you gotta read the super chat.
all right, Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for 499 says, "This is why you don't publish your 6th Vacation Bible School paper as an academic book." Man, I remember Vacation
Incredible.
Bible School. That is a thing I did. All right. So, guys, we're gonna start wrapping up. So, Vishanti, do you have anything that's coming out that you want people to know about?
My brain is fajitas right now. Like, I'm
sounds
still trying to
delicious.
fight off this migraine.
All right, Kit, what about you?
Mine's not much, but I can announce though a couple things. I'll probably have a live stream of some sort this week. Maybe by next week. I mean, I guess by the first week of February. Let's say that for sure.
Okay.
It might be this week. It might be the next one. But I've got nothing planned yet. But I published a video yesterday that everyone should go check out. It's the second half of my fire conversation about child sacrifice with Dr. Heath Durrell and Dr. Dan McClellan. It's on my channel. Go check it out. And I'm really, really excited about this one. I just uploaded to my Patreon after promising it for a long time now. I finally got around to doing it. I uploaded the entire raw footage of my interview that I conducted with Dr. Joshua Bowen at Digital Hammurabi
Nice.
with archaeologist legend Amahai Mazar.
Oh, drink
All
from Mothra.
about Mothra knows.
Yeah.
Mothra knows who
Mhm.
Amahai Mazar
She
is.
does.
Ooh.
And like you guys, yeah, so good. So good.
Awesome.
So, but that's on my
I
Patreon.
still feel bad that my attempt to have Josh Bowen on for a conversation that was going to be like a break and not about slavery ended up being what he says is one of the most intimidating interviews he's ever had. And I'm like, my intention was so much the opposite, and I failed so hard. I'm sorry, Dr. Josh.
Mhm.
And I've said that to him. Like, he knows
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, but like,
He still brings it up, eh?
really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no.
He does.
Oh.
But he gets it. And I think he appreciates it too.
Oh, good.
So,
I wasn't trying to make an intimidating interview. I was trying to give him a break
no.
from talking about slavery.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I figured that like maybe asking questions about split ergativity and Sumerian grammar would be a nice break from slavery. But it turns out, nope, that's just a me thing.
Hashtag not a linguist.
It's true, I'm not a linguist.
Never beaten the charges.
Well, you know what? That's okay. Alright, so what is coming up on this channel, or what am I doing? So, today I've got some more stuff coming. At 3:30 Pacific, which is 6:30 Eastern, I'm going to be over on Debate Hub for the inaugural episode of Debate Pub, which is just a continuation of the Unnamed Tavern show that was on Chesh's channel. So the plan, I believe, is me and Landon and Manya and Chesh are gonna.
Hey, when is that? Sorry.
That is 3:30 your time. It should be.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. So I will be going all over there.
I'll be
I
there
will probably have more gin
at some point
for that. Let's see. So then at 7:30 my time, which is 6:30 Kip's time, and Vishanti's time, and 9:30 East Coast time, come back to this channel for the Cambrian Bunny Award nominations for the 2024 Cambrian Bunny Awards, which, in case you don't know, is my award show for creationism. We have 4 categories. We have worst behaved, we have worst use of the English language, we have worst argument, and we have best overall, for if we think that there's a creationist who actually did a good job. And it doesn't have to be about creationism. For instance, a previous winner of that award was Rebecca for Bread of Life for being a LGBTQ plus. Thanks, Mothra. We'll take another drink from Mothra. Affirming Christian in the evangelical movement who is trying to get more evangelical Christians to be LGBTQ plus affirming. And that is a noble goal, I would say, because, I mean, let's face it, it's probably
That
going to
felt
be
like
the
an
case.
earthquake.
Oh, it's probably going to be the case that evangelicals become LGBTQ plus affirming before they just stop being evangelicals overall. And you might say, I don't know about that, but you know what? The evangelical fundamentalism of like the actual original fundamentalist movement is not the same as it is today. They have changed many of their basic tenets and whatnot over the past decades and close to a century since they were formed. So I think in that case she's doing a good job. But we also have some other things. Sal has won it for basically critiquing some other stuff that creationists have done that they probably shouldn't have. I know at least one point I nominated Matt McLean for trying to get young Earth creationists to stop being really stupid about dinosaur feathers. Because he actually does have the right position on whether or not there were feathered non-avian dinosaurs. He is correct in that there were. So yeah, we do have a best overall. So that's, again, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern on this channel. Then on Tuesday, we have Jackson with Jackson Wheat talking about the nonsense of Charles Jackson. Then that'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern here on this channel. On Tuesday. Then on Thursday, I have to double check because I don't remember exactly which video is coming out next. It is Timothy Cleary is a bird brain, because Timothy Cleary seems to think that there's some kind of fundamental difference between the brains of birds and the brains of dinosaurs, which he really fails to articulate in any meaningful way. For a while, it takes him a very long time to articulate all his points, none of which actually seem to be a difference. It's very weird. So that is going to be at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. So perfect lunchtime. That is not going to be a 4-hour monster like the last week's video was. Then on Friday, check out Top Hats Off, because the plan is to play episode 15 of Star Trek Lexington Emergency at Temujin 3, assuming that Craig has everything sorted out. If we can't play for any reason, including that, Craig hasn't had a time to sort out everything, there is still plenty more art to do for the next game. So chances are that there will be another art stream. I don't know if it'll be me or Chesh or maybe both of us somehow. But yeah, if we can't do an episode, then that's probably what's going to happen that day. That will be at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Then on Saturday, this is a week from today, the plan is to keep reading Bodhi Hodge with this current panel. So if you like watching the three of us lose our absolute shit at how dumb Bodhi is and how little he even makes sense on an internal basis.
I feel like we're delivering.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, we are. All right, so I hope to see you 2 more times today and then a whole bunch more times for the rest of the week. I might need a vacation soon. All right, everybody. Hope to stay safe out there, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Elron Teller, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostick Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, Sphincter of Doom, Wallace, Max Cherry, North Texas Fossils, John Ackerman, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.